So we're live. We're live with your show, your Why Wells Fail. Lloyd Brown, you've got a little story to tell us. You actually had a refined process. Show us your dance here. Show us what's going on.
I'm not going to, I can show you a little bit. So that's the angle of bending after 10 days after knee replacement surgery. I'm already walking and fully mobile and just amazed at what technology can do for you personally and what it will do for your well and keep it from failing.
There you go. So you went through a unique process, and it sounds like a lot of the refined philosophy was embedded in that process. And here you are, you're on stage.
You know what? It's so cool because every knee they treat as completely unique instead of making the prosthesis, your knee fit the prosthesis, they go the other way around it. And it's the results are incredible. My physical therapist was like, "What's going on with you, dude? You're at 3 or 4 weeks in 7 days." And so it's been an amazing experience.
It's an amazing time where people who can take this data and put it into a system and figure out the best way to apply it to this specific case and look at the upside on this. And you guys are doing the same thing, just in with operators, right? In the well industry.
Absolutely. You know, they're experiencing 97% positive outcomes on knee and hip replacement. 97%.
That's
the industry standard's about 80. And you know, when you look at Refine's process, we're a lot better than the industry standard's not as good as 80%. So I'm excited to visit about today.
So the topic today, pop this up, team. Let's look at this topic, and then we'll go into what. Let's hit this. All right. So we want to prove it before first oil. Now, what does this mean? So the typical mindset is we're going to drill this hole. We got everything optimized on surface, and then we're going to use our best guess down hole, and we're going to pour this chemical in here that's hopefully going to optimize. It did it over here on this other well, and so we're going to try it here, but there's a lot at stake if you don't get it right.
Absolutely.
So here, let's pop up this infographic for those that are watching, and we'll go from here. So what are we looking at, Lloyd?
Well, very well as it's a commodity. Treat all of your geology as if it's the same. And let's, instead of a pump jack there, you could have a Model T Ford, because that's the mindset. You can have it in any color as long as it's black. And we're going to do it as cheap as we possibly can. And what ultimately happens is that cheap well ends up becoming a disaster and loses $4.5 to $6 million of producible income over 36 months, over and above, are below what it should if you were paying attention to it. And paying attention to every detail. And so, I love your what you're doing with the AI generated, the hidden tax of disruption. And that really is, if you're not managing and mitigating the disruption and how your geology is responding during this disruption of equilibrium, it's going to cost you. And, I had a call this morning with the client, and she's like, help me understand what is the major difference. And I just walked her through the process of an equilibrium, a state of equilibrium or of stasis, and then this disruption. She's like, well, that makes perfect sense. I haven't heard it explained that simply before, and that's why we're doing things that they're intuitive, they're based on natural laws we all understand, but we've ignored it as an industry, and it's kind of like somebody the other day said, I should add a V8, you know, um, you just missed it.
Yeah. And so this number here, 4.5 to 6 million. Now, this is not just a good guess either. It's based on data and a big study with a large sampling of wells.
Yeah, that specific one is an Eagleford study with approximately 650 wells in the data set, and about 15% of those are the refined wells in the total data set, and that's the cumulative 36-month difference in production between the refined way and the industry standard. And everything has been normalized in that, but the production is the real numbers, the gross net revenue numbers from the gross production for the wells, even when you take into account all the differences of location of the geology, the type of completion process, the quality of the rock, all of the things that are there. It's pretty spectacular.
And then, that's just what's going on as far as the carbon that the oil that you're pulling out of that hole. It's not even taking into consideration the savings on the equipment. And then, yeah.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, it's the real savings, that we have, or when you go and you look at the amount of CO2 and the H2S that's suppressed, that you don't have to pay to get it removed from your product stream. And then you have the ancillary benefit of lower corrosion, lower scale. And then, finally, we're working with an international rating company to get carbon credits associated with the fact that we leave in place the CO2 and the H2S that would have been and currently is under the commodity trap that's being produced, that's not being produced in our process and our solution.
So all this is based on protecting the reputation is where all of this is coming from. And so the outcome or the uplift is like you're supporting this company to be more successful. You're supporting the reputation of the people that are buying into your system and implementing, and just, to pick this new way of looking at it, right? This should have had a V8 way. Even though it sounds great and you got to study, there's a little bit of risk to suggest we go a little bit different direction in the company. And so let's talk a little bit about why stewardship and protecting a reputation is a big deal.
Well, the stewardship really comes down to being a good steward of what you've been entrusted with. And in this case, it's the geology, and it's understanding what the needs are of that geology. It's the same thing if I'm stewarding you, the old word stewardess or steward on a ship, they were guides, right? They were people that took care of those that were traveling. Well, our traveler, what we steward is the geology to make sure that it has the best environment over the life of the well to produce the most recoverable resource. And that's what our company does. Is it comes in, we look at the geology first. We understand what is going to be the major challenges related from disruption through the fracking process, and then we guide our companies, our customers, into the solution that's going to be the best system to yield the greatest results. And it's through a predictive model that in the laboratory, what we predict is what we actually see happen in the field.
Much like the procedure you just went through, they took a scan of your knee, they looked at what was going on, and they made a prediction of what the apparatus needed to be to fit in there. And here you are, you're experiencing the results from that. You're moving from guessing to knowing, right? And
absolutely.
then, that's a big deal. It's like when we're guessing or when we're going on our gut feel on this, there's a lot at stake if you guess wrong.
Yeah, you'll be crippled, right? I mean,
Mhm.
a lot of knee replacement surgeries, early ones, people were worse off than they were before the surgery because, and, managing the pain. Well, we do have to manage the pain of our surgical solution. And that pain is we get a lot more water back over the life of the well, and we get a lot more water back early because that is the main primary catalyst of the disruption. And by removing that non-native, that non-alike fluid from the system faster, um, it does suppress the early oil. And that's another a question this morning that came about is like, how are the financial people handling, looking at this, because we rate whether or not this well is going to be successful in the first 120 days. And, so we have to, as the stewards, we have to let them know, hey, you're not going to get to your destination near as quick. But when you get there, you're going to enjoy it for a much longer time because you're not going to be sick, and you're going to get the results that you want that increase the length of time that you can stay at your destination, and or in this case, you're going to extend the recoverable resource time frame so the well produces at a much higher level over a much longer term.
So your dynamic equilibrium conversation. So when we frack, we're taking something's that's static, it's in equilibrium. We're introducing disruption or chaos in a way, and then your process moves it to dynamic equilibrium. But we've got three enemies down there. We've got swelling clays, we've got fines, and we have. I'm trying to remember the third. What's the third one?
Well, there's more than just three, but the third one is microemulsions.
Yeah.
That are a result of dissimilar fluids and the hydrocarbon, the natural resource that's within the rock. There's also the precipitation effect. You take, say, a calcium carbonate, and it redeposits as calcium sulfate, and it blocks off the perm. And so you've got all of these different mechanisms that are tied to it, and those different precipitates that go along. And then you also have the potential for polymerization within the geology between the FR and the materials that are coming off the rock. And so there's just all these different mechanisms that basically, plug up the pipelines, the micro pipelines that are bringing the hydrocarbon into your wellbore.
Yeah. I was thinking about your knee surgery. I know someone that he needed a second shot at a bad knee replacement. He had a second shot, and eventually they had to just remove his leg. And that's a lot of times these wells end up, they stop producing. You got to refrac, and then what do you end up with? A very crippled well that's not producing what the original game plan was expecting.
That's right. And that ends up hurting the operator's reputation because you've made a promise of this resource. You put it on your books as having this much recoverable reserves over the life of the well, and it doesn't perform. And so that's the other thing about this longer look that we have. It has much more credibility because it's not about 180 days. It's about 360, months. It's a much, much longer period of time. So, or 36 months, excuse me, versus, 6 months.
But these wells producing for over the lifetime of the well, how many years? I don't know the answer to this question, Lloyd. I'm curious. So how long can you expect a well to produce effectively?
What we're seeing is, these wells, shell wells, are going to have somewhere between a 15 and a 30-year economic lifespan. But here's another statistic. In the commodity trap, those wells are giving the greatest amount of their resource up in the first 24 months. In our process, that's going to be almost 5 years of giving up the majority of the value. And that's where that $4.5 to $6 million delta is, because it's producing more longer without having structural failure of the well.
So three more additional years than generally expected of high production output.
That's correct.
So we've had these conversations over and over from various perspectives, but the every new person, like the person you were talking about today, her light bulb going off, it must be fulfilling for you to be able to share that experience.
Yeah, Steve, it's a complex subject, and it takes a lot of repetition. And the conversations that we have here help me create and have the ability to communicate the value that we're offering in a much more compact amount of time when we have meetings like this. And so that's the fulfilling part, that I know that I've got continuity of thought and the ability to communicate it in a manner that is understandable.
Yeah, it's a lot of risk just in the communication of the concept. So much how many variables down? I should remember 200 and something variables.
242 different variables that are measured.
All right. So imagine you have a few minutes of this person's time, and yet that first, well, much like the oil production, in that beginning of time, you got a little bit of high productive time of attention. And so being able to quickly connect the dots in a simplistic way on a very complicated topic is a big challenge.
And, the thing that we talk about, though, Steve, it's not as complicated if you just believe in the law of equilibrium.
Mm.
That's the number one thing. If you believe in that natural law, the other things become intuitive.
Well, let's review that law right quick. So the law of equilibrium
is that over time, natural elements want to get back into what their natural state is. They want to become in balance. And within a oil and gas well, that means that it's no longer regenerating new hydrocarbon. It's not degrading and combining all this organic material. And so the geology, it's kind of like marble and granite. Those are geologies that are in a place of stasis. The only time they get in disruption, on marble, especially if you put some acid on it, it's going to start eating on it. Mm-hmm. And you can see marbles get stained and those things over time, but that's what we're talking about, is that rock is that kind of in a place of stasis. It's not, it's balanced. It's not trying to become balanced. It already is.
Man, you think about the thousands of years that it took to get back to a stasis, and then the oil well guys come along and disrupt that, and for you guys to get it back under to a dynamic stasis, a dynamic equilibrium in such a short time, relatively, is amazing.
I've not looked at it as amazing, but it just, the complexity of the science to get it there is what's amazing. And the team members that we have that are so brilliant at understanding this geochemical relationship.
Yeah, so here we are. The price of oil is around $60 a barrel.
It's a little higher, actually.
Yeah.
People are nervous about Iran, so.
Yeah. But but it's like every dollar counts, and this is a business, and you money in and expected money out. And you guys are coming along with this clear path backed by data, by a process patent, is a big deal.
It is.
So you're protecting reputations, you're refining this way, therefore refine completions. Lloyd, somebody's been listening. They're like, the light bulb's starting to go off. What's the best way to connect with you?
Well, you can get with me at Refine C. Lloyd B via, YouTube or X or on LinkedIn. And then this brand new QR code that's in my upper right-hand corner, you can hit that with your camera and it's going to take you right to the ability to communicate with me, which is lloyd.brown@refinecompletions.com. And our new website is out as well. And it's got numerous call to action buttons throughout the website. And if you want to visit with us, you just click on it, put in your information, and we'll be getting right back with you.
Look at there, man. You just a regular, this is showbiz. Look at you. You got your knee done. You're up and dancing on stage already. Why wells fail and how to make them succeed, right? So
absolutely.
Lloyd Brown, Refine Completions. Good job. Well, I think we'll see you again next week. You got any words of wisdom before we sign off?
Man, just keep your hair from getting messed up in the wind, right?
Right. All right. Well, that's a wrap of Why Wells Fail.